Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Brief. I'm super excited to have Lynn McClouchic here. Lynn is the SVP, Director of Brand Marketing and Business Development at Canon Design. Lynn, thank you so much for being here. Do us a favor, start off by talking a bit about your background and what you're up to lately.
I will. Hello, Chris, and thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. In thinking about this question, I'm actually a finance major, and that always surprises people because I ended up in such a creative field. That's probably just a lot of parents, a lot of parenting encouraging me to get a business degree. I did graduate and was very keen on being on Wall Street. Unfortunately, Wall Street didn't want me. So I ended up at a health insurance firm. And at that firm, I did end up doing a marketing rotation and met somebody from Gray Advertising. And that kind of got me hooked on the creative field. So I ended up finding a way to get hired at a small ad agency and started working with creatives, which was great. As close as I ever got to hanging out with cool kids. And for a lot of years, it was super fun. And then I started to think about gaining more control over outcomes. And that led me to thinking about the client side. And that is when I ended up thinking about what kind of clients did I like working with at the ad agency. And that led me to CBRE, which is a commercial real estate firm. And from there, I really learned a lot about team leadership. So not just creative leadership, but team leadership. And that's about winning hearts and minds in a different way. Client management is absolutely hard, but people management is harder. And so from there, I went back to advertising for a little bit. And then I ended up finding an opportunity to work in architecture. And coincidentally, a lot of the folks that I hired when I was at CBRE were from the architecture field. And I was so impressed with their thoughtfulness, their work ethic, just their creative juice and their appreciation for the built environment, that I ended up connecting with somebody at Canon Design through someone who had worked for me at CBRE, and the rest is history. I am now here, overseeing a wildly talented in-house team of marketers, communicators, graphic designers, researchers, strategists, and business developers, and it's been great.
I love it, Lynn. That's a great story. And you also, on your journey, worked with one of you had really interesting pivots and turns along that way, but it all adds up to right where you are. But did you work with Della Femina directly?
I did. I
What a
spent I spent a chunk of my career there at Della Femina, with the ad legend Jerry Della Femina, who I believe is still sitting at his desk doing advertising today, and that's probably where he's going to die. He is one of the true original madmen, and it was a true privilege and pleasure to work with him. Great guy, funny guy, shy, if you can believe it or not. I think advertising helped him channel some of his introvertedness into more extrovertedness that kind of put him on a platform or on a stage. But yeah, I was very involved with Della Femina, and it's really where I learned a lot about strategy, about presenting, and about how to manage clients, carefully. And it was great.
Yeah, like you, I had the opportunity to work with Hal Riney on my journey at Hal Riney and Partners that then became part of Publicis, and similarly shy and not a group people person, but just absolutely a joy. I mean, I learned so much from the culture of being around the obsession around work that was never done until it was ready to be done. I mean, how you pushed it, and looking into your background and checking you out a bit, I think one of the things that I've heard, or I ran across was your continual focus on pushing work. So, are there key points along the way where that kind of grew in you, or was it always in you?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was first at Della Femina, I had a wonderful mentor there by the name of Jim Tenney, and just watching him and sort of being his wing person for a long time, I think really gave me a lot of cues as to how to work with clients and how to really listen to clients, and also know how to push and pull, because there's a fine line between forcing yourself and your ideas on clients and helping them and winning them over and helping them get invested in buying in. And he had a real art around how to present work and present ideas. And I think that was a pivotal moment in my career. And also, I think recognizing when it was time for me to be able to take that seat, as opposed to waiting for him to approve, waiting for him to have the time to talk to me about things. Um, you learn to you learn to take on that responsibility, and the risk associated with it, because it is a risk, and that's the fight or flight time. And that I think was also a pivotal moment for me to understand that I could take the reins, take the risk, take the reins, and get the rewards from that. That allowed me to then further myself and my relationship with clients and my leadership around that.
Yeah, it's interesting, I think a lot of folks talk about the how to, sell essentially, or get, buy-in on whether it's strategy or creative. And here you are at Canon Design where everything is creative. Right. So here you're doing marketing to raise the visibility and awareness of an already incredibly creative group, and the decision-making process, while there's a rational component to it, is highly emotional, highly, kind of the senses are all analog and they show up, and then we bundle them into these rational components. How do you add to that creative? How do you honor that creativity? Talk a little bit about some of the ways that um, and I'm curious, internally, do you find that people understand what you do creatively and around strategy and communication strategy and insights relative to what they do when they find the inspiration for the building and the way they do the things they do?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because, in I think part of my success in my career has been in understanding how to take the client service piece of what I did in advertising and transition it to an internal environment. Because everyone in this firm is considered to me to be a client. And I treat that relationship it's just as valuable to me as when I was in an ad agency and working with external clients and getting paid to help them go to market and do all of those things. I treat that with the same respect. And I think that that was a hard lesson learned when I was at CBRE and building a marketing team there, because I took that in-house agency attitude to that team. And I think it gave them a greater appreciation for how to partner with our internal clients. And that, I think, is what the real strength of our team is that we are not transactional. We are not doing a quote unquote service, if you will, for our internal clients. We're actually learning the business, understanding inherently what they're trying to achieve, and using our skills and talents to bring that to life. And I think there's a real appreciation for that. And when you can strike that understanding, and when you get that dynamic with a pursuit team who's going after a project, and a team, on from my team that's working with them, I think that's gold. And I think you have to be able to appreciate both sides of it. So for my team, I'm so concerned about understanding the business, because a lot of times people think of the things that we do as sort of being condiments, right? Oh, make this sound better, make this look better. The reality is that we're not the ketchup on the fries, the sesame seeds on the bun, or the pickle on the burger. We're part and parcel of the process. And to the degree that people in our firm can lean in and help share their insights, it allows us to inform design and storytelling in so much more of a powerful way. So that's what we're looking for. And I think there's a lot of people in this firm that really understand that and appreciate it. And that's what makes us successful.
I love it. One of the things I appreciate so much, as an outsider looking at your website, is how ambitions is part of the central nav. And what a brilliant way to say the culture. You also have a culture tab, but the fact that you have ambitions and it's front and center, it naturally automatically, at least in my perception, it automatically says that you stand for something, that you care deeply about it, and that it is something that you want people to know as part of your, the what you do, right? Because you could just be the hard facts about making things show up, right? And instead it's the moonshot kind of belief system that really comes through there. uh how do you keep that energy up and on, and how do you fan the flames of that, or is it something that's so raging there that honestly you have to get out of the way or get burned?
There you go. I do appreciate you bringing that up, and we were actually quite intentional. And our director of communications, Michael McManus, would love you for saying all of that. We rehauled our website. It's got to be about at least 3+ more years since we've done that, and we were very intentional about being aspirational. And we were also very intentional quite recently about changing our communication strategy to fall out of those ambitions, so that we were seen as being, aspirational, and we were seen as attracting the kind of clients that really want to take that journey with us. Um, you know, of course, we love all of our clients, and we want to serve them in all kinds of ways, but we also want to be with clients that are willing to kind of take that journey with us. And I think by using those ambitions to help people understand not just who we are, but who we want to be, I think can also be a great inspiration for clients, and to know that they're safe in coming with us, and that we're excited about doing new things and innovating and transforming. And when we're able to ignite that kind of feeling in our clients, I think that the 1+1 = 3 or more.
No, that's absolutely true. And it's crazy, having, I've worked across my career as in some respects the way you have it, with so many different brands and so many categories. Honestly, that has to happen for every organization. It just has to be true to what the culture really authentically is. Otherwise, it doesn't land, right? We've all run across brands where you experience it being said, but not real in the kind of belief system, and that's a gap. I see that you're a chief member, and you've talked about a couple of people that have been, influential in your career and development and kind of mentors. Why are you chief member? So talk a little bit about that, and then are there other mentors and other ways that you personally try to give back as a mentor or advisor, leader, as part of your career, and growth?
Yeah, I mean, um, my membership in Chief was really more of an experiment in trying to find a place that someone like me, who is at a certain point in their career, can keep growing, and can keep learning. And I will credit Meg Navin, who is our executive director of our commercial practice in the firm, a real firecracker. And I love talking to her. And she had participated in Chief. And the reason she participated in Chief is because of what I just said, is that she's looking at not only just for business development opportunities, but the two of us are senior leaders in the firm. And honestly, no matter how senior you are, you never stop learning, you never stop growing, right? You always have to have that always be learning fuel in yourself, or energy about yourself, or curiosity. And so Chief was a way for me to explore, is there something there for me that I can get from other people like me? And that to me is a really important part of whatever I do next in my career. Whether I stay here at Canon Design and continue to grow, whether I get involved in other aspects that allow me to flourish even more, or get informed to do my job here even better. And that's really important to me, is staying curious and to always learn. And I think that in addition to Jim Tenney, who I mentioned in my advertising career, once I got to CBRE and started to learn the world of commercial real estate, there's a wonderful woman by the name of Kyle Shotman, who I will forever be indebted to for really giving me the longest leash I could possibly hope for in coming into that organization, and helping her figure out how to add value to hundreds of brokers who thought they knew it all, had it all, and how could we possibly help them do their jobs better? And she was really open. She recognized that she herself wasn't a marketer, and she really trusted that I would come in and do the right things, and she would also be open to trying things, and maybe things that weren't always going to be as successful as we had thought they were. So really having that trust, and getting the confidence that comes with that trust, I think was game changing for me. And I think it gave me the opportunity to come here and to do what I do here at Canon Design because of that experience. So you really can start to pay things forward. And I also think that I'd like to think that I do that for my team here and for others that I have managed along the way, to give them that leash, to give them that trust, and to learn from them ultimately as well. I mean, there's no just about, you have to look all around you, sideways, up and down, to really get that 360 to learning that you need to really be effective.
Yeah, that's I appreciate that context and the your clarity around a commitment to continuing to learn. Where are there any places and spaces that you go that have really been fertile for you um, to find the inspiration or the spark or the insights to build upon in the communications and marketing stuff that you do, and even marketing adjacent stuff? Because a lot of times, um, when we say marketing, people think ads or,
Yeah.
external facing stuff. And a lot of times the things that I know I've been most proud of are, not that, because they make a bigger difference in the, momentum or energy or culture or whatever. Um, Talk us a little bit about that kind of context. And, is there a book that sparked things? Is there an event that you went to? Where are some of the places and spaces you've picked up some of that energy that feeds you?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that kind of one of my latest things is Arthur Brooks. I happen to find him to be just a delightful person. The pursuit of happiness is something that I think we're all after. I just find him to be a very grounded person. Um, I just get a lot of inspiration from his thoughts. I think he's a good writer. I also love writing. So good writing is always something that I aspire to. So The Atlantic always has good things, good things to listen to or to read. We've had some external speakers come to our organization to help. Thomas R. Williams was someone who came and spoke to our client leaders as part of our kickoff, and he's just a great guy with so much energy. So I think that, listening to people who, speak with real authenticity, which I find Arthur Brooks does, um, is always nice to hear. And I feel like there is a lot of noise. You could go on LinkedIn and spend the whole day looking at, your feed and all of that stuff. And so it's really hard, I think, to not fall into that trap and try and read too much of everything, but to really find a few things. And like I said, I feel like Arthur Brooks for now is the guy for me.
I love it. I grew up in the Ogilvy agency kind of network and went through their account leadership training, and then actually was trained as a trainer and did training around the world, which was amazing. Um, I I've been looking into some of the stuff you've done recently. You mentioned the event. I think it was in Houston where you did the client leaders training, and I totally feel you in that. You get as a leader of or key teacher, educator, leader of these events, you get so much out of it. It I know for me, when I've done them, it's always charging my battery. I'm learning from them, probably in many respects more than they're learning from me or from the event. Talk a little bit about that, and some of the key moments where that really paid back for you there, or in other training events that you've been a part of.
Yeah, the client leadership training that we did in Houston was actually our third go at it. And I would say each year we make a point of getting a lot of feedback from the participants so that we can continuously improve and always learn, as we mentioned before. But it's a really rewarding experience. There's so much energy in that room, and the connectivity is really palpable. I would say that in addition to the content and the training and the teaching and all of that stuff, one of the greatest rewards of that program, I think, is for people to be in person, and to just be present in those moments, to recognize that there are people like them in the room, that it's a safe space. The fact that they walk away with an internal network that they can tap into. And we do things offline. Sorry, in addition to offline, we also do things online as a follow up to that program to kind of keep the momentum going. But that energy, and that's something that's super important to me, as a presenter, as a manager, as a leader, as a collaborator. I'm always looking to pick up energy. I'm a very energetic person, sometimes maybe too energetic, but I'm always looking for that energy to pick up around me. And so when you're in a room with a ton of people like that, feeling that energy and letting that energy fuel you really, really helps. I think it makes me more impactful when I know that people are picking up what I'm putting down. And also too, just to sense the general alignment that happens, that you feel like people are understanding you, people are connecting with you, and that people want to be there. I mean, those are all super important things, because you could drum up all the content you want. If you don't have a ready, willing, and able audience, you're kind of DOA.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I've been involved in certain instances where there were, lulls in the energy, and it's just it hurts for everybody, right? So that's great, and hearing back from them, uh, what worked, what didn't, so you can continue to build is awesome. That's so smart. Just as we always should be listening to, for feedback from anybody, and if we're trying to serve a market as marketers, the best thing we can do is actually listen very carefully to what people are interested in, and ways to serve that interest.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say what's intriguing about what I do and about this firm is that we have so many incredibly talented people, who are architects and engineers and consultants and do so many wonderful things to improve, to improve upon how we design solutions, for the built and non-built environment. And they're so great at what they do, but yet all of the training that they've had during school is about their technical expertise and not necessarily about how to sell the wonderful things that they do. And so it's really a privilege to be able to work with these people and to help them see how to tell their stories and how to translate all that technical expertise into the way that they can sell it to others and get them to understand, what they do and why it's valuable and why us. So it's a really great meeting of the minds. And that really happens at that client leadership training, where I think people start to understand that, yeah, I haven't been trained in how to sell things, but I know how to do them. And if there's a way to unlock that and bring that to life so that they can feel comfortable saying that to a room full of people, an interview panel, an audience, I mean, that makes me feel really great that we can do that for them and give them that kind of confidence.
Yeah, for sure. As a account leader or a strategist, and one of the things we talk a lot about is how the brief or the plan that we bring the team on board with is our first creative act. And if it's done really well, it should inspire them to instantly imagine ideas, right? Otherwise, if that doesn't do that, that's a hard, that now you're getting into the mechanical of just telling information, and
Right.
there needs to be a level of inspiration. So, part of the focus of Beyond the Brief is, areas where sometimes the brief doesn't have that spark, or, you find it after you've kicked off. I mean, still could be a good brief, but you land on some insight or some little nugget that just emerges out of nowhere sometimes. Do you have any examples like, that where you've done that kind of thing, or you've stumbled across something in working on a program, or marketing adjacent? It could even be a marketing adjacent or marketing like effort.
Well, it does happen. I will say that for sure. I'm trying to think about something specific. I mean, I would say both in advertising, architecture, and honestly anywhere. I've always been excited when I work with a creative team who, looks at a very complex proposition, whether it's a client, whether it's a product, whether it's a service. And something that I've written in the brief gives them the opportunity to find something to blow out, in a way that I would never expect. I mean, to me, that's me doing my job um, beyond. And I would like to think that, we continually do that, here, is that, we have some folks who are wonderful storytellers and who are able to, I don't know, take something that they see, um, about a client. It could be, maybe something in their mission statement, something that someone on the interview panel is passionate about, something that's in their history, something that's in their social media feed, something that suggests that they have a tone and manner that we could glom onto or that we could build off of, or something that's in the history of the firm that resonates and that is really important, that becomes really important, as a hook. I would say that while I can't think of anything super specific, I just love the fact when something unexpected pops up, but yet it's really not unexpected at all because it was kind of there all along. It just needed to be brought to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun of it, right? When that magic happens, that it's always intentional, but it shows up in a way that is surprising and delightful, and that's part of what, for me anyway, is very much fuel for, getting up every morning and doing this with the vigor that you can need to play at the right level. Um, you talked a little bit about early on about, moving to the client side because you wanted more control over the outcomes. How's that going for you? Like,
Well,
I mean, it's a relative thing, I'm sure.
well, I kind of deserve that, didn't I? I think that, yeah, it is a relative term. I think that, when you're in advertising, we all know that the client's right. And I guess, I'm serving many internal clients here. And so in some ways, those internal clients probably tend to think they're right too. But I do think that when I think about charting the course of our team, the kinds of things that we do, the kinds of initiatives that we bring about for the good of the firm, I think there's a lot of control in that. And there's a lot of real true partnership. And I think that there's a lot of times, and this isn't always the case, but I feel like at least in my career as an advertising agency person and being in account management, I dealt with a lot of clients who acted in fear, and that's a terrible place to be. I would say that that has changed a lot for me on the client side. I don't have people here at Canon Design who have fear. And if they do have fear, it's probably more embedded in excitement and maybe the uncertainty of what might come next, but a certain excitement about, ooh, what's going to come next, not I'm going to get fired, if I do this. And so that was kind of some of the disappointment that I often encountered in being an account manager, wanting to do something exciting, wanting to kind of take our clients to new heights, and finding out that our clients were more interested in sort of staying safe and being in a box. And that is not necessarily the experience of every person in advertising. A lot of it depends on your clientele. When I got here to Canon Design, I feel like we're all about growth. We're all about wanting to take that next step. And so, um, when I think back to some folks who talk about, living on the edge of fear is kind of a good thing. It kind of pushes you to do interesting things. It helps you kind of get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think there's a lot of people in this firm that like being there because it pushes us to new heights. So that has been exciting for me.
Well, and you guys are, among your peers in the industry, kind of top of you're very highly regarded, and it's hard to stay there, right? And yet your culture is so clear. Your work product is great proof of concept, right? But, how do you, in everything you do, make sure that the culture that is authentically the culture that shows up, even in like small things? What are some of the things you do to kind of consciously make sure that's happening?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good question because it's really easy to lose sight of that if you're not grounded in your ethos. I mean, our ethos of living centered design, is very much taught And when I say taught, it's not like we have training and you get, a manual or you get some kind of certification, but it's the very first thing that people hear about when they join the firm. We have an onboarding call, and our team is very much responsible for the storytelling around that to help show people who join this firm that this is what helps us thrive. And this is how we do it, both internally and externally. And it's not meant for people to then turn around and parrot that, but to understand that the birth of living centered design was actually not a birth at all. It was something that existed in the firm already. And we hired a firm to help us explore that, to understand how to put a name, um, to put a name on it. So um, it is very authentic to what we do because it was here all along. We just kind of brought it to the surface. And it's great to hear that people really have been drawn to this firm because of that. And to let that ultimately be a measure, that, or a measure or a yardstick for how we're matching up, and to keep us accountable for growing in the right ways, growing in the eyes of that ethos as opposed to putting it aside to do other things. We don't do that. And I think there's many people in this firm, a lot of us in the firm, who truly appreciate that, especially with so many things that are going on in this day and age, the way that we come back to that as a litmus test. So we talk about it a lot. We talk about it, in the proposals that we write, in the interviews, on our website, in our onboarding. As I said, it's not only just something that we put on, a mask that we put on. It's not a mask that we put on to the people that we present to outside of our organization at all. It has to come from the internal piece of it so that it feels right when we talk about it outside the firm.
Love that. You mentioned that you like to write. I understand you've actually been an influence on a novel, Time is a Thief. Tell me about how that transpired.
Yeah, I had a wonderful woman who worked for me, Mary Fermani, Van Denberg. BG Fermani is her pen name. And she started working for me. Interestingly enough, she was one of the people I hired from an architecture firm. So she had a great architectural sensibility and a wonderful appreciation and tons of knowledge about the built environment. And I found out through the course of getting to know her that she was someone who had always been a writer. In fact, all of the work that she had done throughout her career was really a way to sort of get by because she really wanted to be an author. And unbeknownst to me, after working for me for, I don't know, a couple of years, she had seen the force of will and the way that I worked and the kind of work ethic that I had, and it made her pick up her novel from years ago, um, rewrite it, edit it, find find an agent, and actually get it bought and published. And she put me in the acknowledgments as someone that really inspired her, to do it. And I was floored. I was floored. I was flattered. And I would somehow love to be a writer and have something of my own published someday. But to know that I could be that catalyst for her, outside of just the workplace, I thought was really, a wonderful thing. And totally unexpected. I would have never expected that to come out of the leadership that I provided to a team.
I love that. I love that it happened like naturally and surprisingly for you because that's like the greatest honor, I think, in many respects. Um, so what's coming up for Canon Design? What's the latest? What's coming around the corner? What should our listeners, what do you want them to know that we haven't already shared?
Well, Canon design is over a century old, which I think deserves a lot of kudos in this day and age, for just sort of its resiliency. And part of that resiliency is really making itself known in the last couple of years since I've been here. It'll be 6 years, at the end of the year. And since I've started here, the firm has really taken off in terms of its ability to diversify and grow. And I attribute that to our CEO, Brad Lukanik, who really you know, has a red carpet, as it relates to growth, and has really taken this firm on quite a journey, during his tenure. Um, he wants to grow, but not for growth's sake. He wants to be able to respond to markets and clients and the world itself. And we have, within the past couple of years, acquired firms that are, we call AEI adjacent services. And it's so smart, and it makes so much sense. And I think that anyone who's listening to that could probably be on the lookout for growth, growth, and growth. And then I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for all of us. It's certainly given us new ways to think about how we can serve our clients, and also new ways to collaborate and to really push the limits of design. I think a lot of times people think of design as being a building or a physical space, and there are so many other things to design. There's technology solutions, there's experiential design, and there's other aspects of what design can mean. And we would love to own all of that. While we grew up in architecture and engineering, I think design solutions is really where we want to be. And that encompasses so much. And I think that makes it very exciting for us to be part of this firm today and tomorrow.
Yeah, just building on that, I first of all, I looking up the firm and getting to know it a bit in advance of this call, universally across the internet and the places where people tend to be quite ranty, and because it's human nature, right, to have a feedback that's negative or constructive. We'll call it constructive criticism out of kindness. But Brad gets a great rating, and that's hard in today's world, especially for how old is the company?
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord, that means it's gone through many cycles of leadership, but still is continuing to build and innovate. So
Yeah.
kudos to you guys
Oh,
and for you to making sure that clarity is, put in the spotlight, because it's not easy work, because a lot of times people just lop towards the physical outcomes, instead of actually thinking about the ethos and the energy that makes that happen, that magic happen, and to create a pathway that's evident for people on the outside and inside that there's greatness ahead, because that's you're only as good as what's next,
yes.
especially in a creative industry. And it's so hard to keep that path clear, and because especially with today things like AI, we didn't talk about that, which is great because I love actually not talking about it for a change.
I
um
say I was kind of expecting that question to come
yeah,
around the corner, but it is a little refreshing for a moment to not be in the AI world and not to have to think about that for a moment.
indeed. So Lynn, you talked about you wanting to write and be published. I actually heard that Hollywood's going to do a biopic on you. You might actually have written the screenplay. What would the name of the film be, or who would play you, or what's the theme or plot?
Yeah, well, this is a very important question because I'm definitely a movie fanatic. I actually spend far too much time than I care to admit on IMDb. Um, and thinking about this, I guess, my biopic could be a little like a mashup of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, a big splash of Mad Men, and a Kills concert
I love
rolled
it.
into one. So if I think about that, I would maybe title it Method Madness Music. I'm a big fan of alliteration. So I had to go with three things in alliteration. And I guess the way that I'd pitch it to the studio might be Mary Richards from the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Peggy Olson from Mad Men, and Alison Mosshart from The Kills walk into a bar, realize they're three versions of the same person, and decide to collaborate versus kill one another. So it's kind of like The Substance turned on its head.
I love that. That is brilliant. That's going to be, a big winner at the Oscars, no doubt. Absolutely brilliant. And the description of that now, I can actually feel the texture of the film. So
There you go.
that's awesome.
I'd also have to say it has to have a killer soundtrack. So I would definitely want executive control over the soundtrack. I honestly think that soundtracks make or break a movie 100%.
Indeed, indeed. So, Lynn, thank you for all you've shared. This has been a brilliant conversation. I know our listeners are going to be thrilled. For those that want to reach out and connect with you, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is always good. I'm there, and I'm surfing it, probably more just like I'm surfing IMDb. So if anyone wants to reach out, I would encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. That'd be great. Would love to hear from folks.
Well, Lynn, thank you again. And thanks to all our listeners for Beyond the Brief. And with that, we'll wrap up another episode. All right. Take care. Bye.
Thanks.